This is really interesting to me. There are countless centristy Democratic Twitter accounts that are much more rah-rah Democratic Party than I'll ever be. And even they have now turned on Joe Manchin because they see what's going on. They see the game. They know that Biden and Pelosi nominally are on the side of let's get this $3.5 trillion bill passed, albeit incredibly weakly. They don't know how to fight for it, and maybe they don't care nearly as much as the left flank does. But centrist Twitter got the message that actually Joe Biden is a Republican in Democrats' clothing. And so even they have turned on him. This is an ad that was just released by a hardcore centrist, a guy by the name of Don Winslow. And, I mean, these are people, if I'm not mistaken, this is a dude who really was not a big fan of Bernie, was really rah-rah team corporate Democrat. Even Manchin has gone too far now, and these people who previously would have been his allies have flipped on him. Watch how brutal this ad is.
What was your salary last year?
About $18 million.
It pays to be a member of Joe Manchin's family.
Follow the money.
Joe Manchin has represented West Virginia for 40 years. Delegate, state senator, secretary of state, governor, U.S. senator. 40 years, and West Virginia is still the second poorest state in the country. Economy. West Virginia ranks 48 out of 50 states.
Thank you, Joe Manchin.
Healthcare. 47 out of 50 states.
Thank you, Joe Manchin.
Education, 45 out of 50 states.
Thank you, Joe Manchin.
Infrastructure, wait for it, 50 out of 50 states. Manchin has an estimated net worth of $8 million,
Follow the money.
while the average annual income of West Virginia is just $26,000. Manchin receives a taxpayer-paid salary as a U.S. Senator of $184,500. So he didn't get his $8 million there.
Nice, yeah, Joe.
So where does all the money come from? Manchin receives $491,000 annually from his son's coal brokerage company, EnerSystems. His wife, Gail Manchin, receives $613,000 from EnerSystems. That's $1.1 million to Manchin and his wife from his family's energy company. Manchin makes 5 times more from his family's energy company than he does as a U.S. Senator. Joe Manchin has blocked President Biden's infrastructure plan from moving forward because he wants to kill legislation to replace coal-fired plants with clean energy. Manchin is selling out his own country to protect big coal and big oil who own him.
Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is the kingmaker, and he's not shy about sort of staking his claim early.
The chairman of the committee that regulates coal shouldn't be a part owner of a coal company.
This is Heather Manchin, Joe Manchin's daughter. After lying about having an MBA, she was named CEO of Mylan Industries. She artificially jacked up the price of EpiPens by 461% and was awarded with a 671% salary increase. West Virginia is poor, poorly educated, and broken, but Joe Manchin and his entire family have become multimillionaires.
West Virginia, abused and suckered for 40 years by Joe Manchin.
Damn, that was a hard-hitting ad. And that was something that these people would never say unless and until Manchin crossed Biden, which he's doing. Truth is always a defense. That's all accurate. That's all correct. I've read all the articles on it. There was a great article in The Intercept called, I think, Joe Manchin's Dirty Empire that lays out in great detail the amount of money that he's making from the dirtiest coal plant in West Virginia, the amount of money that he's making with investments in dirty energy. This is the guy who's the head of the climate committee that's going to determine what gets in that reconciliation bill. So where we are at the mercy of an openly corrupt senator, that doesn't seem to make much sense now, does it? Unfortunately, the corruption in Washington is so thorough that they don't even see it as corruption. It's like asking a fish about the water. They'd be like, what? What's water? They think, what's corruption? This is just how it works. We take money from industries and then we serve those industries. Duh. And you got to balance that with the needs of your constituents. No, you don't. You should just be listening to the needs of your constituents. By the way, there's another great point that it didn't make it into this ad. This ad hit almost all the major points about Manchin and how corrupt he is. But there's an article, I forget who, maybe it was Rolling Stone. It was some, God, I wish I could remember. There was this wonderful article that detailed how there's a there's a pharmaceutical company in West Virginia that really, provided some of the few decent jobs in West Virginia. And the person who previously owned it cared deeply about creating a community in West Virginia and also selling the drugs at a reasonable price. And what happened is when the new management took over after the other guy passed away, they immediately started to look towards jacking up prices and outsourcing the jobs. And that's exactly what they're doing. And every single time the working people at this plant, American manufacturing of pharmaceuticals in West Virginia, this is what we, during the pandemic, what did everybody say? Well, the problem is the supply chains all go to China. We have to create our own medicine, create everything here. I mean, we'd be better off doing that, wouldn't we? We can't be dependent on all these other countries. We should have American manufacturing here, especially high-level manufacturing like pharmaceuticals. Well, every time these people try to reach out to Joe Manchin, he was nowhere to be found. He wouldn't take a meeting with them. He wouldn't talk to them. Think about that. Some of the best jobs in West Virginia, they're going to close the plant and outsource it. And they look to Joe Manchin for help. He's nowhere to be found. Won't say a word about it publicly. You're telling me this guy's not corrupt? See, that's the main point, and the media won't tell you this stuff, is that this isn't an honest ideological disagreement. I can handle honest ideological disagreements. I love honest ideological disagreements. I search out things I disagree with, but I think an interesting and intelligent case is made for those things. Sinema and Manchin are the most corrupt Democrats, and it's showing in the negotiation process over this $3.5 trillion over 10-year deal. And that's why the child tax benefit and universal pre-K and paid family leave and paid medical leave and tuition-free community college and lower prescription drug prices and home care and housing and climate money, that's why it's all on the ropes. Because these guys are beholden to industry. And now even centristy Democratic voters have figured that out. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Never in a million years did I think that some of these hardcore Twitter Dem centrists would turn on the Manchin types, but here we are. And the other thing is, don't give me this nonsense of he's just representing the people of West Virginia. No, we've seen the polls. This Build Back Better bill has majority support among Democrats in West Virginia, independents in West Virginia, and Republicans in West Virginia. So you would just be wrong if you're saying he's just being a West Virginia Democrat. No, he's being a corrupt Democrat. And Bernie Sanders, who's pushing hardest for this, is the West Virginia type Democrat who's trying to deliver for the people who live there and work there. So that was a great ad. That was a wonderful ad. And I want to see a hell of a lot more of that. I wish that was running on West Virginia, on TVs in West Virginia nonstop, because we'd be in a much better place if that was the case. He'd feel the pressure and he would concede a hell of a lot more.